this is Facebook Live, but it's on a Thursday, not a Friday. So welcome to Pinhole Quilting. I'm Liz Holpin. My husband Pete is just behind the camera. And we've just been listening to some terrible thunder and lightning. What's the weather like wherever you are? I hope you're having a good day. It's incredibly dark outside. We've had sunshine. The showers, we were lucky. The delivery we had just avoided the showers, very heavy showers. Anyway, have a wonderful Easter weekend. And I hope that you've got some nice things planned. We're going out tomorrow, hopefully. Yeah, so happy Easter to everybody. What are we going to cover today? Well, I thought we'd do something nice and, I'm going to say spring-like, but actually it's not. It's kind of more for the summer. But it's a lovely panel. I got it from John Cole Morgan at the iQuilt studio. And this is the panel. We're going to do this. Today, I'm going to take a simple panel and say, right, how do we take this simple panel and get it on our Moxie? And the reason for that is I had a few conversations with people at the Duxford show recently, where people said they just got their Moxie. It's like, what do I do next? You know, they might have done some practicing and things. Well, this panel, or something like a Project Liners quilt or a Quilts for Care Leavers quilt, it's a perfect starting point for you to build up your confidence and to get into quilting. Now, edge to edge, you can achieve that by doing quilting from the back. If you've got Pro Stitcher Lite on the Moxie, you can do it using your computerized system. And we can also do some edge to edge designs using the Full Line Stencils with pounds. However, I'm going to do more on free motion quilting, just using the fabric as the inspiration. And I'll just show you how I might approach that. It's not the way you might want to approach it, but it's just how I'm looking at this and thinking, this is what I'm going to do. No rules, no quilt police. So, Pete, have you got anybody out there? Did anybody read the email I sent out today, which was a bit of a surprise because we were thinking it'd be Friday?
Absolutely, yes. So, Elizabeth Dunkley, as usual, often one of the first online.
Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth. Good to have you on board.
And it's sunny where she is.
Excellent.
Patchy rain with Di Bell in Bristol.
Hi, Di. Wow. Hope you're well.
Lindsay Cash.
Fantastic.
Lovely weather.
Lovely weather.
Still cold.
Still cold. In Switzerland. There we go. Hi, Lindsay.
Joan from Stockport.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Joan. Joan Arnold. Yep.
And Glenys down in Kent is wishing us both a very happy Easter.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. And thanks for saying hi, everybody. It's really good to hear some very familiar names.
And Shelley from Iowa.
Oh, Shelley from Iowa. Yeah. So Shelley was on last time, and I think Shelley was the one who emailed us afterwards, wasn't she? I think so. Okay, let's just discuss this panel. Should we hop right into this, Pete? And I'll just talk through it. And then you can maybe get a glass of water or something, because I
will.
I'm very thirsty.
You come around this side?
Yeah. So I'm inspired by lots of the threads that you can see behind me here. And I wanted to talk through the process. We came back from our lunch break and I'd got my borders cut for this because it's a panel that's fairly narrow and it's 45-inch wide. So once I'd trimmed it down a bit, and I started at, I suppose I put the second borders on about 1:45. Okay, so since 1:45, which is only an hour and 25 minutes, I've put my other borders on, I've pressed it, I've found some backing fabric, I've got my wadding, and I've loaded it onto my frame. Don't be confused by the extra fabric on the front rail, because that's from the previous demo rail. And I'm just having some honey water because my throat is very strange today. The thing about putting something like this on the frame is it's really quick. It should be really quick, but I think that sometimes we kind of don't approach these projects with the positive view that we can just get this done. You know, we're just going to get this done. But there's nothing like a Facebook Live to motivate you in that process, as it has indeed me. And in fact, I have been doing some piecing at home of a quilt that's from a long time ago. And it makes me realize, you know, when I get these projects done, how quickly I should have finished it, really, but I haven't. I've got my backing fabric loaded on the second rail in, so my backing fabric's black. Now, think about this, that when you do your quilting, what you choose for your quilt thread is going to also have an impact on the backing, because then you've got to choose your backing thread. The easiest thing when you're starting out is to have matching top and bottom thread. Don't go for black on the top and white on the bottom. It's going to be stressful. So the easiest thing to do is to pick something that, if you're feeling confident, you're going to be able to see on the back. If you're not feeling confident, go for a complete multicolored jungle fabric print that, you know, hides every mistake. But whatever you do, do it for a reason, so that you've thought it through and you've gone, okay, this is going to be my top, this is going to be my bobbin. And I've selected one of the new glide threads, which is called Lazy Sun. And yeah, Lazy Sun. We're not having a lot of that at the moment. And in the bobbin, I've got a Magna. So let me just take that off. So the Magna Glide, which I've got in the bobbin, is going to show really nicely against the black fabric. So I've got this colour in the bobbin, and it's very similar to my top thread of Lazy Sun, because I want it to go like this on the... I'm doing a lot of detail here. I'm going to be doing some designs into the spaces here. So by having that top thread pretty much matching to my bobbin thread, if I should happen to not get my quilt stitches perfectly balanced with the tension, it's not going to show as much. And it's not like it can't show, you know, it's not like it's not possible to achieve that. But when you're learning, the way that you use the machine is not necessarily as smooth. So you're not dispensing the bobbin thread and the top thread as smoothly as you might when you're a bit more practiced. I mean, you'll see people come up at a show and they just go zoom, 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 you know, like pedal to the metal on a motorway. But that's not what you want to be doing. If you want to have a nice smooth quilting stitch, it's important, I won't take that out yet, it's important to dispense it as smoothly as you can. It helps. It does help. So that's the bobbin thread, but we set this bobbin tension a little differently to when we wind our own bobbins on the Magna. And the reason I've chosen the Magna is, for my own quilts, I use Magna. I do. I like the Magna because I find that it dispenses the thread really evenly, and it gives a good, consistent tension. The reason it can do that is it has a magnet on the spindle of the bobbin. It's a pre-wound, and it comes like this. It doesn't fall apart.
So there's a blue plastic insert to the bobbin.
Yep.
But on one side you'll see that it's black, and that black bit is a very small magnet that sticks inside the bobbin case and makes the delivery of the thread much more consistent.
So here's the bobbin case. You're going to put the Magna into the bobbin case so that it comes off to the right clockwise, then under the spring, and then we do our bobbin drop test. So the bobbin drop test is just slightly amended. You can still put it in the palm of your hand with the bobbin facing uppermost, but when you drop it, it's not going to just drop. You need to sort of do like a little yo-yo. Ooh, nearly caught it. Like a little yo-yo, and it will just then float down and stop. Now, I'm really happy with that because that's smoothly dispensing, and all I've got to do now is match it to my top tension. We have got a video on YouTube of setting that with a bit more time taken to show the impact. If it needs to be tightened, you'll tighten the larger of the two screws on the bobbin case to the right or clockwise, righty-tighty, and if it needs to be loosened so that it does actually drop when you do the yo-yo action, you need to turn it to the left. So I would load up my backing fabric and have enough fabric of the original wadding in the backing, and something similar to what I've used on the top, which I do, so that I can do some test stitching. And the reason for this, and the reason to match it, is that it's an accurate test then. So I've loaded it up, I've got a 16 needle with glide thread, and I've put it through all three tensioners. Okay, now when I pull it through, it's important for me to make sure that it has got sufficient tension. So I'm pulling on this as I test it before I even stitch, just to make sure it's in the approximate ballpark of what I would expect that top tension to feel like. My settings are on cruise or continuous setting, 11 stitches per inch, with a stitches per minute of 250 in the cruise setting. So what that means is it will continue to sew even when I pause, which is what I want for doing some of the things I'm about to do. So here's my test stitching. I'm going to do needle down, needle up, push the machine away and bring up the magna. The first thing I do is I just pull on that, make sure it's not stuck. Is the bobbin thread flowing? Is it going smoothly? And then I do some little stitches, just moving it slightly, and then leave the needle down. In fact, it's not set to needle down, so let me just move that. I'm going to set this so that needle does set in the down position. Oops. And oh, there we go, 11 stitches per inch. So now I can do some test stitching. Oh, something is at the back, it's just skipped. Okay, Pete's going to go around the back because I can feel it. It might be one of the cables. It might have freed itself now. Just make sure everything is going right. We just reloaded this frame with this fabric. So, you know, it's at a time when if there is going to be something that's caught up or the leads need to be routed so that they don't snag on the carriage, then this is the time to do it before you even get as far as your quilt. The other things that I would have done is new quilt, new needle, and that's also really important. So let me just pull that. And I would oil it, I would clean it out and oil the bobbin case area. So I've done those things anyway. Now it's all about loading. So as I said, I've loaded my backing fabric, I've got my wadding on. You'll note that the wadding is too short, but I'm going to use up a scrap of wadding and put another one in using the method of cutting the wadding so that it doesn't show very much. All will be explained in due course. So what I need to do first of all is put in a plumb line just to base this so that I can take the quilt top up to a straight line. And the way that I do that, I'm going to reduce the stitch count to 4 stitches per inch. Bring the fabric, the thread up. Hang on. Something's got caught. Let me just take my bobbin case out. This is definitely Facebook Live. So if you get what I've just got, which is the thread on the last time I did needle up, needle down, it just got caught. I can actually feel it in the bobbin case assembly. I'm going to go to the back of the machine. And just wiggle this so that it comes free. And then I can cut it. Put the excess in the bin. So I'm going to rethread. What happened was, and it does happen occasionally, is you can pierce your own thread if you're not careful. And the time to do it would be when you're doing a video to a whole load of people live. That would be the time, that would be the perfect time to do it. There we go. All right. Just going to pick that up again, make sure it's stitching properly before I do anything else. There we go. Make sure it's doing 4 stitches per inch, which it is. And I'm just going to move it to the side. When you're at the side doing these test pieces, you don't have to do the whole picking up the thread and all that sort of thing. You can just cut your threads off at the side. So because I've got Pro Stitcher, I can use, yeah, thank you, Pete. Wow, it's like you read my mind. You can use this if you have a loft frame or the studio frame or the gallery frame on the wheels of the carriage. And what that does, it stops it moving forwards and back, and we can just put it on the wheels on the carriage, on the machine to the carriage. And that just locks them so that we can do a straight plumb line. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to use a horizontal channel lock with Pro Stitcher. So I've just switched that on, and now it'll only move to the side. There we go. Bring up my bobbin thread. While I'm doing this in a second, do you want to say anything, Pete? Well, when I get to the end of this row, maybe. And then I can tie up my lace as well, which is coming down.
Say hello to
Yay.
Well, we've got Carol online from the northeast of England. Hi, Carol.
Hello, Carol.
Well, there's Maya in Australia, where it's already Good Friday.
Happy Easter to Maya.
And we've got Margaret in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh yes, North Carolina, Greensboro, fantastic.
And Eileen from West Virginia.
Wow. Hi, Eileen. Hello, Greensboro. Hello, West Virginia. There we go. That was my international hello and welcome. Welcome. I hope you're having a great day over in the States. It's very, very windy, not windy, rainy over here. So I'm lining that up now. My plumb line is my straight line going right across the quilt. And that is now what I can line my quilt top up to. If you have this sort of situation where it's quite flat here, but actually I'm not probably exaggerating, it's not too bad over here, but sometimes you have a bit of excess, you can just put a bit of wadding under here, which will take account of the fact that it won't be quite as straight if you're not careful. Just going to get myself some wadding pieces. Show you what I mean. So you can just put that under there temporarily, just to make that a little bit. There we go. Take the channel locks off. So that just flattens it out a bit, just putting a little bit of wadding there. Now I'm going to do like a wiggle stitch just to secure that in place. Was there anybody else you want to say hello to, Pete?
I would say hello to Raquel, who's just down the road.
Oh, wow, Raquel.
Miles away from here.
Yeah, hope you're well. Hope your mum's okay.
And Louise Cox says, I learn something new every time I watch. Never thought of a plumb line before. It's interesting. Most weeks somebody says, I hadn't thought of that before. So good, we're doing something.
This is yes. It would be terrible to think.
It just takes an hour of your time to watch.
That's it.
For that little tip each week.
Each week, that little golden nugget. All right, so I'm going to do like a wobbly stitch, a wibbly stitch.
So Liz has just been doing it free motion based, effectively, off the quilt top to the backing. Do you want to explain why you've done it like that?
Mm-hmm. So the reason that I've done it like that is actually Kimmy Bruner. Kimmy is totally to blame for this. The lovely Kimmy Bruner, handy quilter ambassador as was, or is, and fantastic educator, really brilliant. And what she was saying was that, you know, when you do a basting stitch down the sides to secure it, and perhaps also the top and bottom like this, you have the danger of it having a lot of fullness, and it creates a line or a fold, which isn't ideal. But if you've got this wiggly line, any fullness, every now and then, with that little bit of the wiggle, that fullness will go out into the wadding and you won't have the line. And it's worked for me, and I hope it works for you too. So I'm just going to do I'm going to go to 7 stitches per inch, and I'm going to do a vertical channel lock down here on my right hand side within what will be the basting, binding area, I'm sorry. And I'm trying to keep it as straight as possible. You don't want to stretch it or make it stretch. You want to keep it square. And again, if reference Kimmy, if you're looking for some instructions on how to really keep a quilt square, on her education tab on her website, it's a brilliant explanation. It's a PDF or a document you can look at. Right, so I've done 7 stitches per inch on there with my vertical channel lock, which if I haven't got Pro Stitcher, I can just use those channel lock manual method. That in this case, going down the sides, I'd have to go to the back of the machine and put the channel locks on 2 of the rear wheels to lock it. But I'm happy with that lock. That's all looking very square. And I'm floating this. I didn't load it by putting it on the front rail. I just, for speed, I just am laying it on the top. And if I wish, I can use my super leader, a super clamp, or the easy grasp clamps. Vertical channel lock on again. And that way, I'm just going to keep going down here. Oh, I looked away then. That wasn't ideal. You see, you shouldn't look at the camera, really. It's looking at the camera. And I move the fabric. Okay, channel lock off and move it to the side and trim it. So now I can start my first bit of quilting. Thank you, Pete. Let's talk about the quilting. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? The fabric itself can always be your inspiration. You know, either the style of the fabric or counter the style. You know, lots of straight lines. You might want to do circles and create some movement with the quilting. That always works well. With this, I thought that because they're kind of like individual almost panels, like this and this and then this. And it says, take time to smell the flowers, treasure nature's tiny miracles, as sweet as home. Be grateful, and the flower doesn't dream of the bee, it blossoms and the bee comes.
As sweet as honey, I think you'll find it says.
Oh, as sweet as honey. Oh, I thought it said home. As sweet as home. I thought it meant like the honey hive is as sweet as home. Yes, I know.
What do bees make?
They make honey, Pete. I've got some in my mug by coincidence. Yeah, okay. All right, I see that now. I need to get new glasses. Take time to smell the flowers, right. Or in our garden, the roses, because we have got some beautiful roses. Right, the side clamp then, I'll just put that back on. Let's talk about the quilting. I thought I would use the same thread on the border as I'm going to use in the main panel. And I'm going to go and highlight around these elements here. And then I'm going to come back in and do some more within each of these. Maybe. But the main thing I want to do is I want to use the full line stencil to do a stencil across here first. And then as I go down, I can also do those stencils. So the stencil I picked is this one, which is called, my lovely assistant Peter,
Along the Way Swirl Border.
Along the Way Swirl Border. And I didn't, that was without even moving my lips. The nice thing about this one is that it pretty much, I'm going to leave obviously more space because the binding is going to be going on. So I'll sort of do it, and whether you can see this, it's quite nice actually because it's sort of see-through. And I can actually put this against the edge, and I'm going to be slightly in from the border, from the stitched line, and I'm going to place it so that it's kind of lined up at the edge here. What will happen is I will then flip it. If I need to adjust it in any way, which obviously there's a chance I have to do that, I can either put something in the center to elongate it, or I could stretch it and just sort of shift it if necessary, erase it and shift it. So there's a few different things you can do, but I think it's actually going to fit really quite well. So yeah, I might just have a single swirl in the middle, and then I'll have 2 bits coming up to it. So that's good. So let's just see how this works out. So I'm using it with the pounce chalk, the quilt pounce, which is one that you can iron off. And all we do is just rub on top of it. So hey, there we go. That looks good. then I'm going to do this side and just check that if I do it like I'm doing it, oh God, it fits perfectly.
That's a lucky break.
Wow, Pete, it's almost like we planned it, but we didn't. That is so cool. Look at that.
Oh, look how that's ended up in the middle.
Oh, I might do a little heart in
It's
there.
your lucky day. I think maybe you should do the national lottery.
On Saturday, do you think? Okay. Yeah. How much do you get these days? I have no idea. I've only ever played it. I think I played it 4 times and I won £10. So I came out up. So I thought it was time to quit. Now, the thing about this design is it's important to understand your thread path. So, finger trace or pen trace, the end of a pen, and just see how it stitches, because you need to know, oh, I see, so you're that way up, right, got it, You see, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have known that. I'm just talking to myself, really. I'm kind of hoping that you can, so yeah, I'm just going to do the whole thing, because I've just realised there's a couple of things that I wouldn't have got right. And the nice thing about this is the consistency will be there because it's on the stencil. I mean, you could free motion it, but you know, it's in an area where it's going to be really obvious if it's okay or not. No pressure. Settings wise, I'm definitely going to change it from the 7 stitches per inch that I just had. I'm going to do 11, and I'm going to come down from the 250 actually. On the cruise, that's a little bit high possibly for me. I'm going to go 200. Right. Okay, and they're off. Take the gears off. All right. Oh, hang on. Possibly shouldn't have stopped there. Oh, it's definitely skipped, Pete. Let me just...
Okay, have a look.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
It might be the lead itself. Can you unplug the encoder lead and plug it back in?
Yeah, it's caught up amongst the other cables.
That's what I thought.
If your side-to-side encoder stitches are not regular, then just check the leads at the back first. That encoder lead, I think, was just getting caught on.
Yeah.
On the power leads, give that a try.
That's better. Okay. Yeah, I didn't start off very well, but isn't it terrible? We always criticize ourselves, but you definitely, I would have practiced this, I would say, in advance, because I think I'm going to get better now. Oops. Okay, and the thing to say about this is, when the chalk's gone, nobody's going to see where you went wrong. Yeah, I've got a few flat lines. But overall, you're going to be reading the panel. So you're trying to work out if it says honey or home. There we go.
So, Rachel, that's extremely observant of you, I have to say. Rachel Shaw says, frame looks a bit high for you, Liz.
I said to Pete, didn't I, Pete? This frame's too high, but Pete didn't have time to change it.
No, so at the last training class that we had here, the person
Which is one of the reasons why
he was very, very high, it was very, very tall. We've actually got the frame here, the loft frame, almost at its highest point. So yes, it's definitely
I'm struggling to get the smoothness because I'm having to reach so far.
Yes, so that's the reason for the free motion crossing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It's not as good as I would expect,
so
because I'm like,
just put your arms on the handlebars here. You see that Liz's lower arms
I could practically hang off it.
Are almost vertical, whereas ideally they should be much closer to the
They should be more like here.
Yes.
And so then I'd be able to reach here, whereas at the moment, when I'm over here, everything is too high up. So you see how high it is?
I reckon at least 4 inches too high for Liz.
It
does make the free motion more tricky.
So we just demonstrated that too. Getting the frame height is really important.
But very well spotted, Rachel.
Good job, Rachel.
Full marks, an extra Easter egg for you.
Yeah, and I did say it's a bit high. Just saying. Right, I'm going to do some, I'll use the Pro Stitcher to do the straight lines, but you could use rulers to do this. So I'm going to go up. Oh, I know what we can do. If we, how should we do it? Let's have a look. I'm going to put the gears on, and then I'm going to put the vertical channel lock on. I'm just going to see how far out it would be if I used the vertical channel lock and the horizontal channel lock. Yeah, it's just down in this corner. So there's a nice feature in here, which is the Pro Stitcher record and mark. And what that will do, once I've set up my frame space, which I'll do first, and then we can just crack on with this. Area, frame space. Now what is frame space? Frame is the maximum area that you can stitch with your Pro Stitcher. I'm going to take this off because we don't need it. That's the ruler base. And it does get a little bit in the way if you're not using rulers. So the frame space, you sort of set it up with 2 corners and it creates a rectangle box. Then Pro Stitcher knows that you can only stitch safely in that box. All right, so that's pretty useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the mark feature. See, this is the other thing. I can't actually see the screen. I'm having to go like this. Look. He's going to get me a little stool. Oh God, he is. He's get me a stool.
Let's pretend that you're.
Gosh. Wow.
I can't see your head anymore.
It's a little cooler up here. It's amazing what a little bit of height gives you. Wow, that's brilliant.
You're getting altitude sickness.
Yeah, I feel a little giddy. Okay, we'll get a Pro Stitcher and we're going to go to mark. You hear that little ping, maybe? Mark is basically saying, right, I want a mark of a point on my quilt. And it's very useful for doing things like stitching in the ditch. I'm going to fall off. Do you know that the first time, do you remember the first time I did sewing quarter, I fell off the box.
Yes.
But luckily, they'd got a little, they segued into a bit of advertising, and it was never captured, sounds unfortunate, for posterity on the video. Very lucky. Right, so did you want to show that, Pete, when I'm done? Because I think it's quite a good feature, a Pro Stitcher. So I've basically, using Pro Stitcher Record Mark, I have I've marked this here. I'll move it away, you can see. And that will correspond to me stitching now the inside of this border in the ditch.
It looks completely straight, but it isn't.
No, I had to do a few little marks. Only because obviously my border was not as straight as it should have been. Oh, I do like that little stool, that's great. Right. So now I can go to quilt, and I'll go to, should I put start and end? No, I'm just gonna, yeah. Should I do, yeah, I will do. So you've got an option to stitch, do starting and ending micro stitches and pulling up on. I'm not sure about the start and end. I'm just gonna do it without. So run, check that everything's correct. So we've got, 11 stitches per inch, 56% speed, and I don't have my tie-offs on at the beginning and the end. So I proceed. It does a little pull-up. I'm going to bring it back. Instead of letting it do the auto micro stitches at the beginning, I'm just going to go forward and then back, and then leave the needle up. There we go, and when it finishes, it unlocks. I'm going to go one stitch forward and one stitch back to do a locking stitch. The reason I'm doing it myself is because Pro Stitcher Lite has an auto number of stitches of 5, and that just is a few too many for when I'm going to have stitches joining like this in the border, and I just think it might look a little bit ugly if there's 10 stitches all together. All right. So that, I think, is a brilliant feature for doing something such as we've just done for stitching in the ditch. Anything, Pete, that you want to add to that, or?
No, as you said earlier, you don't have to have Pro Stitcher for this. You could do that with rulers.
Yep. Right, so I'm going to echo around this sunflower, but I need to move it up. So I don't need this to see this bit anymore. I've done that border section. So I can move this up. If I move that forward, I can see how far, because on this frame I tend to go a bit too far. Oh, get that off. I want to go up to there. Put the cogs on, just tension it. Shouldn't be any more tense than, you should be able to reach the first joint of your thumb. And put my side tension on. Just check that tension's okay with the wadding that I had to put in before. It should be okay. Generally it sort of eases itself out. It looks fine now. Right, so I can go there. Check how far you can quilt down, because you don't want to be caught out by reaching the edge of the quiltable space. So either mark it with a panda pencil like I just have, or do a stitch line so that you don't get caught out by this problem of, you probably end up with like circles with a square bottom, which is not ideal. All right, we're ready to move on. with some stitching. So what I thought I would do is practice some stitching and take inspiration again from the quilts. So I'm looking at my quilts, and there's some lovely sunflower designs. There's 2 different types of sunflower. So, you know, I've already started using in my sketchbook the sunflower quilt, just practicing. So this kind of thing here, I've got some sunflower leaves, or petals rather. So just try and get those shapes. And just simplify them. So looking at that, I've got a center. It's usually easier to eyeball these things by doing the outside first. And literally just practicing until you've got that muscle memory. I haven't quite got it right actually. Yeah. That, and then that, and that, and that. Because this one goes up to the center as well. It's okay. Like that. Okay, that's that one. And then I've got some swirls and things here, which is quite interesting actually. It kind of swirls and then swirl, back out, and then that sort of thing. There's loads. I mean, this is obviously a patchwork panel for quilters, so, you know, there's lots of things that, and these little flowers are quite cute here. So I'm doing all these, and then, you know, I'll end up doing a stipple. Only kidding. Right. And there's a circle there. So everything's on the quilt, really. I'll do one more petal on that one. There we go, little flower. There's 5 petals on there, but there's 6 on mine. Never mind. There. So these were the things I was practicing before as well. It's just about getting the muscle memory of shapes. And let's see what happens. Combine those, and I'll probably reference other things in my head. So I'm going to do the outline first, and then I'll do a bit of the free motion. Oh, got my gears on. Much harder to move it. Almost as far as I can go. All right, so that's the first thing, is I've just echoed inside, in that sort of very pale yellow area and around the sunflower. That's as far as I can go. I think I might just move it a fraction further actually, because I would like to be able to do that bottom bit. There we go. So that's done around the sunflower. I hope this is useful. If you've got any questions or if you do it differently, then, you know, just post in the comments below. With this, I would just echo around. This is too fancy to do anything more at the moment, but I will at least sort of go around this outer edge so that I can do my all over, and then I'll come back and I might have thought about it again and thought, oh yeah, I might put in some straight lines with a ruler or something like that, just to sort of underline certain things. I think it's too fancy and small to do quilting, but I'll see how I go. This isn't really a fancy panel. This is, you know, it's a nice thing to have possibly in a conservatory or something like that. So I just got to think about how I approach this one. I'm going to start over here, and when I come back, I will start my free motion quilting and go up there. So again, I'm just kind of thinking it through, really. Anything, Pete? Anything? You've been remarkably quiet. What you can't see is Pete just doing some mime at this point.
Behind the camera. My function is to move the camera.
It's not such an easy job. I found that the other week.
It'd be better to switch the lights off next time you stop this.
I can stop
your
there.
Stitching if the Moxie lights were switched off.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Oh yeah, they're really bright. It would.
You'll be able to see the stitching better, I think.
Well, everybody else.
We've got a flicker now. I think they need to be off completely.
Pardon?
I think they need to be off completely.
Oh, you got a flicker? Oh, okay.
The frequency is not
right
liked by the screen.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Right, quilting. Back to quilting. Just going around the outside because I want to have a lot of fun doing some filler. I'll bring the stool back. Oh, that's a bit more relaxing. Somewhere halfway house would probably be best. There we go. And I'll just do some tie-off stitches. Thread. What are you laughing at, Pete?
Just a comment from somebody. Scarlet.
Scarlet. Hello, Scarlet.
There's a picture of a Scarlet Pimpernel, I think, as a profile.
Well, why wouldn't you if you were called Scarlet?
Now I know I'm getting old. Sat down to wait for the start and fell asleep.
That sounds like Pete. Doesn't it?
I'm still awake here. Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we had, for my birthday, wasn't it? We went down to London. We don't book an evening show. We do a matinee. You don't have to ask why, do you? Because we just fall asleep. Kimmy Bruner wrote something really funny recently about that. Somebody knocked on her door at 6:30 in the evening. Her immediate thought was, what on earth, somebody's knocking on the door this late in the evening? Oh dear. Things change, don't they? Things change. Right, so I'm just going to kind of get in my mind the scale of what I'm doing relative to the sort of spaces in the quilt. So I'm not writing on the quilt at all. I'm just imagining stitching. So, because if I do some little swirly things, because the scale is really important. You don't want to start big and then end up going small, or start small and end up getting bigger. So I'm just thinking about that. Okay. Right, I'm going to start in this corner here.
Treasure nature's tiny miracles.
Couldn't be more appropriate, could it?
Here's Liz.
It's a miracle she's still
Look
going.
at the step, look here.
Stop it.
I do.
Tiny miracles.
Of course, the nice matching thread colour is great, but it does make it more difficult to see it on the video. There we are, but that's normally the effect that you're looking for, isn't it?
Yep, it is. Yeah, I just want it to
More
look
real-life
nice.
situation than our stark contrasts that we try to use when we're trying to
Yes.
show things.
Yeah, but it's nice to actually do a quilt, isn't it? Okay, so I've stepped off my big stool, off my soapbox, so that you can have a look and see the kind of thing I'm trying to do there, which is some of these nice swirls. And when I get to this bigger open space, I'll mimic some of these things here. But I think we're getting to the end of our session, aren't we, Pete?
Yeah.
So anything else that we wanted to say this week? I mean, this is an extra session. I've just edited a video that I'd done of the other quilt, the blue and white quilt, where I've been using Pro Stitcher Light. And it goes through how to edit, how to crop a design if it isn't exactly like you want, but it's one of the base ones. And I'll be loading that up later. I've just exported it. So I'll stick that on YouTube along with this Facebook Live. And I will keep quilting. We'll video this and stick it up as a separate video so that you can see how I continued doing it. Well, I hope that's been useful, and I hope it's given you insight into exactly how small I am compared to the loft frame that we've got set up here, and that very often I do use step stools. I find them very, very useful. Alternatively, if I'm at a supermarket or whatever, I will just find the tallest person. I had the incident, of course, with the shelf falling down when I tried to climb up one, and I've not done it since. Okay. Pete, anything to add?
No, do we have any other news this week? We have a a pre-loved Simply 16 with a studio frame. Very good combination.
That's a great combo.
It's just been posted. That's down in Somerset.
Are the electromagnetic channel locks with that?
Includes the electromagnetic channel
That's
locks and
great.
lots of other accessories as well.
Yeah, loads, because you've got a lot of groovy boards, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Simply 16 Studio Frame. We've got new ones that we're just kind of getting online too. There's 2 Sweet 16s, one with us, one with the customer in Wolverhampton. Excellent discounts off a new one. But more importantly, our brand new Amara 24 just arrived about an hour before we started this. So we're excited. We are excited, aren't we, Pete?
We are.
Genuinely.
Mark will be unpacking them at this very moment.
Yes. So we will have a new machine on our floor for people to have a play on and for us to have a play on, which is always good. So that's it, I think, from us. Have a wonderful Easter, everybody. It's lovely to see so many people from around the world, and it's a great community that we're part of, and we really appreciate you watching it. So thank you very much. See you next week. Bye.